Hello and welcome to Beyond Disabilities, the podcast where I speak to wonderful people with disabilities to help show that just because you have a disability doesn't mean you can't achieve your goals and dreams in life. This time I'm joined by Ellie. Ellie, please can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Ellie. I live here in the UK in Sunderland, 19, and I am a TikTok content creator where I post videos about autism, raising awareness and stuff, acceptance. Um, I've helped a lot of people, helped a lot of parents understand their kids. I've helped people get a diagnosis. I've helped people sort of accept themselves. Like, someone might have came across my content and just found out they've got an autism diagnosis, want to know what that means. Because I've been there. Because I was only 9 when I was diagnosed, so I was too young to really know what that meant.
Yeah,
And then as I got older, I started educating myself through like YouTube videos and stuff. And then, yeah,
no, that's brilliant. That's how I first came across you on TikTok. Was like I found one of your videos one day and like you do lots of amazing things and I keep seeing you on Instagram as well with like getting comments from people like saying how you helped them and it's just really heartwarming to see that, especially, and I don't want it to sound patronizing, but you say you're 19, aren't you?
I'm very young.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, but you're doing such amazing work that I think just absolutely brilliant.
Mhm.
uh Sorry, I've completely lost questions. I'll edit this out.
Sorry.
So please can you explain that you touched on it a bit there when you were first diagnosed, uh, the process of how you got diagnosed and your family's reactions?
So, I found it really hard to concentrate like in class. Like I struggled with like I didn't learn the same way that other people did. Things had to be explained in a very different way, like
Yeah,
at school and stuff, in order for me to understand. Teachers kind of saw that as me like being lazy, but the older I got, the more it came apparent that something there was different. Um, and then it's because thing is, when you're an undiagnosed autistic child, it's easy for teachers to be like, "Oh, that's just a
yeah.
naughty behaved kid, like messed about." I used to like stim a lot, like in class, and the other kids found it distracting. I would like hum or like rock backwards and forwards, like on my
Yeah,
chair and stuff. Um, Teachers probably saw that as me being disruptive, but that was my way of like, I don't know, self-regulating, I
yeah.
guess. I struggled socially, like on the playground. Um, there was times where I think like I had friends, but like I think I did have friends, but like there was times where even though I had friends, I still felt like on my own. I think that was my
Yeah,
way of like trying to say that I feel like I'm not the same as other people.
yeah.
I didn't always understand like, their social rules. They didn't understand like my social rules. Um, I always knew in the back of my mind somewhere that like, something was different. Um, so it was round about when I was like 6 or 7. I think they were looking into an autism diagnosis. They originally thought it was dyspraxia, but then they were
Oh,
like,
okay.
no, it's all. They were like, no, it's autism. Your daughter is autistic. And then I think I got my official diagnosis when I was 9. And at 9, I was very young. Like I wasn't really old enough to know what that meant.
No,
I just, yeah, I just thought, oh, okay, I have this thing called autism. So this is why I feel like I'm different from other people. But it was when I got to about 12, 13 years old, I wanted to try and understand myself better. I wanted to know what that meant. And it was honestly like a light bulb moment in seeing all these like autistic adults that were out and proud about their autism. That was amazing. It made me feel better within myself, like, okay, so I do have this thing that makes me a little different, but that's okay. It's fine. So
no, it definitely is okay. And yeah, I know what you mean about like I stim a lot when I'm either nervous or excited, and it's the same one, so nobody really knows unless I tell them. But yeah, it must be like so hard, like not knowing, but then sort of having this feeling that there is something that is different about you and that or unique really. That it's a unique thing. I like to celebrate
yeah.
uniqueness. But I might ask some questions that weren't on the question sheet. But why did they think it was like dyspraxia first of all, not autism?
I was very clumsy in the classroom. But to be honest, I was just a clumsy child. I used to trip over my own feet. Like
Yeah,
I was, I mean, clumsiness and like, I don't think I've ever made a video about this. I probably should, but clumsiness can sort of link to autism in a way. It ties into autism a little
Yeah.
bit, like clumsy, uncoordination. Like I'm 19 and I still can't ride a bike, but that's because I don't have the coordination for that. So I mean, I probably would like if I tried harder, but
Yeah.
it's harder for me because I'm not very good coordination wise because of my autism. So
Oh, I'm the same. I'm 30, still can't, but I've got dyspraxia, so that I'm never going to be able to. But I can drive a car fine, so it's an odd thing, but it's about
then
like,
again,
go
I
on.
could I could still have dyspraxia. I could just be going undiagnosed. So
You never know, they go but hand in hand.
yeah, it would explain a lot actually.
But I don't know, like, do you feel you would, I'm trying to think of how way to word it. Do you think that your life is going to be affected because you can't like ride a bike, for example, or do you think it's just going to be, or do you think you've accepted it?
Fix it. I mean, it's not the case if I couldn't, if I didn't put the practice in. It's just
Yeah,
harder for me than it is other people. But to be honest, I could go the rest of my life not riding a bike, and I honestly wouldn't care. So I'm not really like a bike kind of person,
no,
really. So
no, I completely relate to that. I'm the same. Like, I'm happy with my car, happy driving it. I'm never gonna. Why make my life harder by being in the cold rather than the outside when can just sit in the heated car? So
yeah.
next, you briefly talked about it, but can you talk about any challenges you faced growing up? You mentioned school, like were there anything in particular apart from the ones you've mentioned? And did you get offered any support at all?
So thing is, it was hard when I was younger because I didn't like because I didn't know different was like it's all right to be different. When I was younger, I thought different was like a negative thing, and I didn't want
Yeah,
anybody to know that I was different. And they tried to get me like a mentor and stuff, and they tried to explain things. At the time, I thought they would just treat me like I was dumb because I had a disability. But
yeah. Sorry to hear that.
looking back now as a young adult, it's because they weren't trying to treat me like I was dumb. They knew I was a smart child. They were just trying to educate me in a way that my brain could understand. And
Yeah,
having like a mentor sat next to me and stuff, I didn't like that because it made me feel different. It also
yeah,
made me look different. So in terms of like academic support, like sort of held myself back academically by doing that because I didn't want to be sat next to a mentor and stuff. I didn't want to look different. But it's I think it's because at the time I was too young to
yeah,
understand my disability. And when you're different, kids kind of treat that as like a bad thing, like, oh, we don't want to hang around with like the autistic kid, you know what I mean? The girl who like rocks backwards and forwards in her chair and lessons and stuff. But like I was never really bullied for it, I don't think. I mean, I did have like different ways where I'd come out with like these big, long, fancy words, and people would be like, what the hell is she talking about? I used to have like stress balls and stuff. Like,
yeah.
um,
That's
I
so good.
struggled a lot in terms of my meltdowns when I was younger. I used to like get very angry, but the older I got, when I went through like puberty and stuff, it just became more emotional.
Yeah.
It still kind of is like that. I don't lash out and I'm not like, like I used to. I'm now just like, just cry.
Oh, bless you. No, I completely relate. Like in school, think mainly high school, I think it was like primary school, I just sort of accepted it. But in high school, I was very, I don't want to say dismissive of any help I was given because, like you, I was offered like a TA to sit in my classes and help. But I was like, no, that will make it like red lights to everyone.
Because
Oh,
it makes this was in primary school. Like when I got to
oh, okay.
secondary school, none of that was offered, but I wouldn't have offered it anyway because I didn't
Yeah,
tell anyone in secondary school about my autism because I know that teenagers can be cruel.
yeah,
And if you have a disability that makes you vulnerable in some way, they can sort of play on
definitely.
that. And even though I didn't tell people that I was autistic because I didn't feel comfortable doing so because I was sort of scared about how I was going to get treated.
Yeah, I can understand
And
that.
like I said, I know kids can be mean and stuff, but I feel like kids did sort of pick on that I was kind of vulnerable in a way. Like I didn't have a lot of friends. I struggled a lot socially. I struggled socially in primary school. I struggled socially in secondary school. I went through so many different friendship groups to the point where at the end of year 11, I only had one friend. I don't talk to her anymore. Just
Yeah, I'm sorry about
yeah. To be honest, it's still kind of like that now. I do struggle socially. Um, but once I'm up on my feet and I'm doing more stuff, and it's been a very weird past 3 years as well with COVID and the pandemic and
Yeah.
everything. I feel like once we sort of get back to somewhat of normality, it might be easier for me to like find a little group of friends maybe. Um, so yeah, I struggle socially. I struggle with my meltdowns, but I mean,
Yeah.
meltdowns are always gonna. I did think that like the older I got, I was sort of gonna grow out of that because
Yeah.
that's another thing that's stigmatized. People see it as like a childish thing, and I feel like
Not
it's
at all.
worse having. I know it's not childish and
No, no.
it comes with my disability, but like as an adult, and thing is, you might feel this as well. I sometimes feel silly having a meltdown, like at my age, because it from the outside looking in, it probably does look like a 2-year-old. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I know it isn't, but I still feel silly, like my age, like having a meltdown. But
No, I
oh, I'm
completely.
very yeah. Sorry, I
No, no,
interrupted you
no,
there.
no, no, it's not at all. I was just gonna say, like, I completely like relate to that. I'm 30, still get periods where I just like have meltdowns and things. I still feel silly, but I know that I can't. Like, it's not my fault. That makes it makes sense. It's just it's sort of a I don't want to say side effect, but like because of the autism, that's what causes the meltdown. And like just to touch on the friendship thing, that I was the same with you. I've had so many different friends like throughout my life that have been and gone. And it's only really the last couple of years, really, that I found like a small number of friends that have stuck with me for a while now and like accept me for who I am and like are more understanding and like want to learn and like are really like adaptable as well.
Yeah, and it's like just a group of friends that like I'm not interested in a big group of friends. If
No,
it's just a small group of like 3, 4 people, I'm all right with that. Thing is, I've been in a big friendship group and I know that it's not as amazing as what it looks like on social media.
not at
It's
all.
very clicky. And then it was like, oh, this one isn't friends with this one doesn't want to be friends with this one day. It's too much for me to keep up with. Like, oh, you can't be friends with her because this she did this. And I'm like, oh my God, too much drama. I couldn't handle it. So
Oh,
yeah, honestly, I'm happy to just go the rest of my life with like 2, 3 friends. It's better to
oh,
keep your circle small, I think.
oh,
So
I agree. I think you have two or three like really good friends that'll stay with you forever rather than have like 20 or 30. Like yeah, I'm happy with the friends I've got now. Like I can know I can trust them. I've opened up to them. And yeah, like I'm sorry to hear that. But again, I think it's more of an autism thing with society that I think people just find it so difficult to, and only some people understand. But like you're like a really intelligent like person, and you come across as really approachable, and it's shown like through all your Instagram and TikTok work. Like the amount of people you're helping, it's absolutely amazing.
it's like I think with autism, because with come up we're quite intellectual and things that we know a lot about, like our special interests. I feel like that's where intelligence on the autism spectrum comes from. We get so
Yeah,
passionate. I think we use it as a form of escapism to escape like the struggles we face as an autistic person, diving into things that we find really interesting to the point where we literally know every single thing about that subject. Makes us come across very smart because well, what we spend most of our free time doing. But the thing is, I always find that I didn't always like my interests were very different from
yeah.
like people my like especially when I was in school. Like I tried to get interested in things that my peers were interested in, but I just couldn't. Like if it was a show on Netflix, I'd be like, this is very boring. Don't understand. Like, and I'll just turn it off. Okay, it's time to Google things about autism.
Oh, I completely
Um,
get that. Like for me personally, like the friends that I've made in the last few years, like one of my interests is Doctor Who, and like since joining TikTok, like, I think it was during COVID, like I've seen so many Doctor Who TikTokers, and then I started talking to them, which I've never done before, like just randomly messaging people like online. Like it was always like scary, but that's how I find guests for the podcast now. But I just started talking to them and we clicked, and yeah, I'm quite lucky now that I'm part of this cosplaying Doctor Who community.
I have a friend. He isn't. He thinks he might be autistic. He's not diagnosed autistic. He thinks he might be. He
Yeah,
does have ADHD, and Doctor Who is a massive like special interest for him. He loves
yeah.
Doctor Who. Talks about it all the time.
Oh,
You
bless
know, I mean, makes him happy. Like you can just see the joy on his face when he talks about it. So I mean, if that's his thing, then fair enough.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like your special interests. Like, what are your special interests? I'll ask about that. Just we haven't asked.
The thing is, politics, that's a big one for
Yeah,
me.
that's good.
Um, like autism, like talking about autism, like I enjoy that. What else am I special? I've got loads, but I'm just because I'm put on the spot, I'm trying to think on the top
Sorry,
of my
just throwing that out
head.
to you.
Yeah. I'm very into politics. Like that's definitely a big thing for
Yeah.
me. I'm into like the autism stuff that I do, like on TikTok and everything. Probably I have many other special interests. I just can't think off the top of my head. So
No, that's okay. Leads me on to the next question, but it's great to hear that you've got like quite varied special interests and like you do a lot of amazing work on TikTok and Instagram about autism and raising awareness. And I think you reach so many people and like it shows. I know I keep banging on about it, but all you get so many brilliant positive feedback. Like it's just so heartwarming to see.
thank
So
you.
you're welcome. So please can you explain how you started like making your content and like the reasons behind why you did it?
Yeah, so it literally all started when I was 13 and I wanted to educate myself about what autism was and what that meant. And slowly over time I started to accept myself.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, so I'm different, but because sometimes society kind of does that, they sort of treat different like it's like a negative thing.
yeah,
If you ever notice like if you've got a disability like autism or ADHD, people would be like, oh, they've got something wrong with them. Why is it wrong? What's wrong about different? Like
absolutely
I
nothing in
think
my mind.
I think society is very afraid and very intimidated of things that they don't understand. So they kind of treat it as if it's like a taboo thing. I think we've
Yeah,
come a very long way in the past like decade, 10, 15 years. I still think we've got a very long way to go, but we've came a hell of a long way than what we have in the past. Um so wait, what were we talking about again? I've just went
no,
off
no, no,
topic
no,
again.
no. Honestly, no, you did it perfectly. Like, I mean, you've actually covered a later question, so that's perfect as well. But like, it's all
Yeah,
about you, how you
I sort
start.
of
Like,
went on a little tangent there. I can't even remember what
no,
the
it's okay
question
if you
was.
do that. Don't worry. Honestly, like, it's really good what you're saying. It was all about your TikTok and Instagram work. Like, why you, what are the reasons behind like doing it and how you started doing it?
Yeah, like it all started when I was younger and I was trying to educate myself on my disability and what that meant for me. And then I started to realize that autism wasn't a negative thing and it wasn't something that I had to hide or be skeptical about. And seeing all these other like, because I was 13, I was like a child at the time, but like seeing all these adults
Yeah,
who were like out and proud about it. And it was kind of a light bulb moment, like, oh yeah, so this is why I do that. This is why I struggle with this, and this is why I'm not so good at this, but why I'm really, really good at this.
yeah,
And then I started gathering all my knowledge from watching other people with autism talk about autism related things. And I think it was like the stigma and everything around
yeah,
autism and the stereotypes and all of that sort of encouraged me to speak on it. And another issue is like autistic girls and autistic women like going undiagnosed because for years it was only seen as a male condition. There was actually an instance where I went to a trampoline park a couple of weeks ago
yeah,
and this woman behind me had an autistic son and I was like, oh, I'm autistic, and she
yeah.
went, oh, that's very rare in girls.
No, it's
And I
not.
was like, I think it's because, well, we're just going massively undiagnosed. That's been a
Yeah,
problem for a very, very long time. Why is it so easy for boys?
I don't know. I
It's
think, I mean, I don't have a like what an answer for that, but the only like thing that jumps to mind is that I think girls and women are like so much better at masking, if that makes sense. And I think the model for diagnosing is very much, unfortunately, a male-based model, like the stereotypical, oh,
Sheldon Cooper, Rain Man.
yeah,
What's eating
you know where
Gilbert
I'm
Grape?
going. Exactly.
Yeah, but it's like Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory is like he's like what people think when they hear autism. They either think of
Yeah,
like a crazy math genius or like somebody who's very incapable, but like it's not just one or the other, right?
not
Autism's a
at all.
very huge, diverse spectrum. Like we all have similarities, I think, that kind of form the spectrum,
Yeah,
but it's like we're all massively different as well. Like
we
I've
are.
met autistic people where I have a lot in common with them, but we're also very different in some
Yeah.
ways. It's like I had an autistic person who like an autistic person I was friends with in the past. I
Yeah.
haven't spoke to him in a while. We went to like a drama school together.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And spicy food, that was like a sensory like I love spicy food, but
Oh,
he
I
doesn't
do.
because that's a sensory trigger for him. So that was like what we would his special interest was horses. He was obsessed with
Oh
horses,
wow.
loved horses. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing when you meet an autistic person, it's pretty early on you can like guess what their obsession is because they will talk about it like a lot.
Oh, definitely. Which is just such a lovely thing. Like that's one of the things I love about autism, and it might annoy other people by me going on about Doctor Who or like other autistic people, but you can learn so much. Like if you got two or more autistic people in a room for an hour, like you would learn everything about their special interests and things by the end of it, and you'd have like it's good because you can then share and learn about different subjects. I had another question then, but I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I think it's absolutely amazing. And I think with the diagnosis, I think slowly it's getting there for women and females and people like yourself and like Chloe Hayden, like being in
I
Heartbreak
love
High and
Chloe.
her TikTok
Chloe,
and sorry, carry on.
but I love because the thing is like Chloe was actually one of the first YouTubers I watched like back like 6 years ago when I was educating myself about my disability. She was
Same.
literally one of the first. In back then, she didn't really have the following that she has now. She was
Oh
only
no,
19. So she's 25 now. She's only 19, but like I've literally known her since she. Well, I haven't known her, but I felt like I knew her because of
I know
like
it.
all the videos I saw about her. But see now she's like, because at the time she was just a YouTuber, but now like she's really big on TikTok and she flies all over the world. She's got a book coming out. Um, like
Have
I
you read
just
her
think
book?
it's great. I haven't got it yet. I think
I'm
I don't know if
reading
it's
it.
out.
It's amazing.
Is it in the UK yet? The
Yeah,
book.
it was out beginning of the month
Yeah, but
in
I
the
think
UK.
it's great. hmm I think it's great, like how far she's come in the past 6 years since I've been watching her since I was 13, and now she's like huge.
I know I've been trying to
But I
get her as
think,
guest for ages and ages on the podcast, but she's so busy, which is brilliant because she's like spreading awareness.
yeah, and she found out at 22 that she had ADHD, which is insane. That apparently ADHD is massively underdiagnosed for women as
Yeah,
well. I don't know
but
much about ADHD because that isn't my disability, but it would probably, but I know that it's not it's very different from autism, but they have a lot of
yeah,
similarities.
yeah,
Um, I mean, who knows? I might have it, and I just have no idea because I do struggle a lot with concentration. That
yeah.
could be my autism, but you know what? I could be sitting here right now and I have ADHD and I've got no
You
idea.
never know. I know, and it's so hard to get a diagnosis, especially I don't want to say later on, but like to get a diagnosis when you're an adult, it's just ridiculous. Like I just had a friend, Vicky, like she's another person who uses Instagram and like TikTok to do like advocacy work, but she's 31 and she's literally just got her ADHD diagnosis. And if you met her, you'd be like, "You've got ADHD, bless her." And I mean that in a nice way. Like she's always like really energetic and she like goes from one thing to the next, but she's got autism as well. So I think you're right. I think they go very hand in hand.
I know that there's been instances where people have been misdiagnosed with ADHD when they're actually autistic, or
Yeah,
people are autistic and they've been misdiagnosed ADHD, or they just have both.
yeah,
I can imagine having both would be like interesting because autism is very like routine orientated. We
yeah.
need to do X, Y, Z, and then ADHD is like I don't care. We're just gonna sit in a wall all day and do nothing.
I know what you mean. Like, yeah, my brother's got ADHD and he's like very much like that. And sometimes, like, especially getting older, I found that I'm showing more and more traits of ADHD. Like, I don't know why, but just coming out. So I'd like to just try and get a diagnosis. Like, even if it comes to the point where say, no, you don't have ADHD, I'd like to go down that journey.
Yeah, I recently did like this Winnie the Pooh test thing that's like surfacing TikTok at the minute.
Yeah,
It's that's trying to like because a lot of people go to these like online tests to try and like diagnose themselves as autistic. I'm all for self-diagnosis as long as
oh yeah,
people like are serious about it. If they're not just saying it like for the fun of it, like if they
yeah.
generally feel like they're different somehow or they have like some kind of mental illness, like because I know it can be really hard, and anyone who's been diagnosed autistic knows that like the diagnosis process can be a pain.
I'm
So
definitely.
I'm all for self-diagnosis as long as people are serious about it. But I just thought it was important to make a video to be like, if you go to an online test, it's probably not going to give you an accurate reading of what you
No,
actually have. Because those tests probably aren't created by people who are actually autistic or have ADHD, dyspraxia,
not
anything
at
like
all.
that. They're probably not like, they've probably never even studied those disabilities, probably don't even know what they are. They've just got a bunch of stereotypes, categorized them together and put them on this like online
I
test
know
thing.
it's so dangerous. I'm just going to send you a second Zoom link because for some reason the time is running out. It says we've only got 9 minutes left. But if you're happy to
Oh,
continue,
I mean, we
oh,
could continue for the 9 minutes and then
yeah, yeah,
we
no
could just do
problem.
that. Yeah. Thing is, I do like I do like doing podcasts and stuff. I love waffling on about autism
No,
because it's
you're doing
fun.
amazingly, honestly.
Yeah.
So can you tell me, like everything you're saying is brilliant. Can you tell me, like, said you've got a boyfriend, if your like autism had any impact on the relationship, if you had to make any adjustments to each other's behavior, and or if you had to like if he supported you like with your disability.
To be honest, Dan didn't know a lot about autism
Yeah,
when we got together. He thought autism was like, oh, it's just people who don't like loud noises. That's what
yeah,
he thought autism was. Because I think he's known someone in his life who had autism, but probably like used to cover his ears, like, whenever
yeah,
there was loud noises going on. So that's what he thought autism was. He thought it was just people who didn't like loud
yeah,
noises. And I'm very like knowledgeable on my disability, so I sort of educated him on like what autism was, and it's kind of funny now because like there'll be times where I'm watching TV and he's like, "Oh, do you think she could be autistic because she does this and she does
yeah,
this and that's what you do?" And I'm like, "You're catching on."
yeah. Bless him. Oh, that's
I
really
know.
nice. So no, that's brilliant. So gonna talk about the present. So where are you now in terms of like employment or education? Uh, and what challenges do you currently face, like in your
So
everyday
I'm
life?
Yeah. So I'm currently at a centre called Yes Northeast,
Yep,
which helps young adults with autism like try and find a job. I've been going there since October. The course actually finishes in March.
yeah,
They've helped me like update my CV and stuff. I've done a placement. We've done like mock interviews. It's just a place that helps like sort of vulnerable adults go about trying to find a job or like work placement, like that kind of thing. It's been
yeah.
really good.
Oh,
I've enjoyed it. I've also met other autistic people as well, and so that's great.
oh, that sounds
Very
really
much
brilliant.
enjoyed.
It's good that there's a centre and there's a scheme that can help like adults and people with autism to try and get employment because it's such a difficult like getting your foot just applying for jobs is just difficult. It's not catered to people with disabilities at all.
No, it really isn't. But it's like even like young adults who don't have a disability, I just feel like going about getting a job, it's not as easy
No,
as what it used to be because before you could just hand in your CV and then, but I feel like most of it's done online now. And I've got
yeah,
like Indeed jobs like on my phone and stuff. Like it's just apps where you can try and find a job. But I sometimes think to myself, there's gonna be like thousands of like other kids who want the same job, so I'm most likely not gonna get it. So what's the point?
I know what I just like get so tired after scrolling through on like on Indeed or whatever, or just going down, pressing apply, and like you're right, there's probably thousands of other people out there. It's just I think it was easier back when you could just hand your CV in and then they or just have a chat with them, but now it's all very screen based, which is not good in my opinion.
You can still do that in some places, but it's very rare. Everything's like mostly done online now,
Yeah,
so it's a little bit annoying.
I know, because I think like especially like for me personally, like I find it so much easier when I can just see someone face to face rather than behind a screen and like especially when applying for things like that. So what would you say are your proudest moments and biggest achievements? And what positives does autism contribute to your life?
Well, if I didn't have autism, I wouldn't have like made such a difference in people's lives. Um, starting my TikTok, I didn't think I would get the following that I have. I didn't
Yeah,
think that I would make this much of a difference in people's lives. I just did it for educational purposes. I thought, okay, I'm quite knowledgeable about my disability. Why don't I put it to good use? I sort of took advantage of it because TikTok is a really big
Yeah.
platform. In the past 3 years, it's just became huge. So I thought, right, it's a big platform. I know a lot about my disability. Why don't I just make like, informative content about autism? And then before I know it, I started helping people get a diagnosis. I started helping even teachers be like, thank you. Like,
Oh
next
wow.
time I have like an autistic child in my class, I'll be sure to like, it's amazing because I didn't realize I would have this kind of like impact on people.
No, it's amazing. It's brilliant the impact you are making, and you are like making such a difference in so many people's lives. And I think TikTok, especially for me, I think it's got compared to any other platform, I think it's got such a big like this people with disabilities feel so safe on there, and especially people with autism. Like I think they all reach out and help each other. So, last question? What are your wishes for the future? What would you like to achieve? And do you think anything needs to change to support you with your disability and other people with disabilities?
I think there needs to be, because autism representation, Chloe did a really good job in Heartbreak High. I actually only saw her scenes. I didn't watch like I only
Yeah,
watched the scenes that she
she
was
was
in.
amazing.
Oh, she was really good. She even like showed like what an actual meltdown looks like, not like the stereotypical.
Yeah,
And it's really hard to sort of be vulnerable and show that side to you, because I'm still very private about my meltdowns. I would never make, I don't think I would make a TikTok of me having like an actual
no, I
some
wouldn't
people do
either.
do that, and I admire their courage, but I don't think, because I'm very private about my meltdowns, I don't
Yeah,
think I would ever do that. I think what needs to change in terms of, I think there needs to be more female representation.
yeah, I
Um,
agree.
Autistic characters being played by autistic actors. Um, I think like I'm gonna keep doing like my awareness videos. But like there's like do you know Ella?
Yeah,
She's not,
it's
yeah.
Ella Purple Awareness,
Ella,
is that?
she's called Ella La, is it Law? Ella Law, Ella Lau, something like
I
that.
think so. Yeah, I think I know who you mean. Yeah, I follow her on Instagram.
She has short hair. Sometimes like has crazy hairstyles.
Yeah, I know
Uh,
exactly who you mean. Yeah,
yeah. Um, sorry, my little cousin's
no,
downstairs.
it's
He can
okay.
hear
No
a baby.
worries.
She's only one, bless her.
Oh, bless.
Um, oh, my niece. She's my niece, not my cousin. Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, but I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. In the future, hopefully, the ratio of like female autistic people and male autistic people, that's like, it's not just mostly men that are diagnosed. Some girls
Fingers
might be.
crossed.
Because I personally, it's like, celebrities such as Anne Hegarty, I don't think she was diagnosed until she was in like her 50s. I
Yeah, I know
wouldn't want to
which.
go with that. I wouldn't want to go that many years not knowing why I was different. And I think the earlier the diagnosis, the better.
No, I completely agree. No, I just want to say honestly, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know we've been trying for a while, and I'm so glad we finally could be able to do it. But no, you've been brilliant, and the work you do is helping so many people. And like, you should be really proud of yourself because, like, honestly, just by you educating yourself, you've like in your own disability, you've changed so many people's lives. So I just want to say thank you so much. And where can they find what you, if the audience want to follow you?
So my name is Ellie Stores, X, just Ellie Stores with a little like X on the end. My TikTok, where I post a lot of videos about autism, like just what autism is, self-acceptance, raising awareness, that kind of thing. I want to start YouTube very soon, but I need to try and figure out how to go about editing videos and stuff. Um, might get a green screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.